Okay, so using 2018 as a baseline, do you know what that program paid in Medicaid claims?
I do not, Congressman.
It's about $671,000. Do you know what that program paid in Medicaid claims in 2024?
I don't have the number in front of me.
$342 million. That's about a 500x increase over 6 years. Was there 500 times the number of autism patients in that time period?
I couldn't speak specifically to it, but I will say, Congressman, that
doesn't sound reasonable, right? You don't think there was a 500x increase in the number of autism patients in 6 years, right?
Correct, and that's why we ordered on-site visits starting back in 2024.
So we agree that doesn't sound reasonable.
Let's talk about budgets, Governor Walz. Feeding Our Future went from $307,000 in 2018 to $199 million in 2021. Are you aware of this increase in budgetary costs from Feeding Our Future?
Not specifically, but I know it increased during the pandemic.
The Housing Stabilization Services went from $27 million in 2021 to $105 million in 2024. Are you aware of this increase, Governor Walz?
Not specifically, but I know it increased.
Autism centers went from $24 million in 2019 to $342 million in 2024. Are you aware of that?
Not specifically again, but yes, we know the budget's increased.
Integrated community supports went from $4.6 million in 2021 to $170 million in 2024. Are you aware of that?
Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. As you see, we got Gill and Donalds just eviscerating Walz, and Walz just looks like a dog, like a little puppy that just pissed in the floor, and you're just like screaming. He's just sitting there, oh, trembling. You know what I'm saying? Like Gill and Donalds, they start off slow. You know what I'm saying? It's like a slow kind of speed bag thing, and before you know it, it's just, and I love it because Tim Walz's brain is just not equipped to deal with their intelligence. These guys are probably, Jordan including, but Jordan, he lets them off a little bit more. Donalds and Gill, they are just assassins. Like, they're Bruce Lee, bro, and Chuck Norris, bro. You know what I'm saying? Those two dudes, they're assassins. And I don't know anybody in the Democratic Party that could actually mess with them when it comes to intelligence. But, anyways, there's a lot of footage here, and they're catching him up in a lot of stuff. Just, literally, he's been just letting his stuff, sweeping it under the rug, him and Ellison have, and now they've actually everything's come to fruition now. And you know he's the scapegoat. You know that's why they told him not to run for governor again. They knew he couldn't handle this kind of questions from these kind of elite minds, you know. Donalds and Gill, this is what they do. They off with the head, you know, they don't play games. And I'm actually really excited that you know, I think Gill's only like 32. He's from Texas, Donalds is from Florida. Where they're from, they were taught by the best of the best. And man, future presidents, both of those guys could be. If they maintain the things they're doing now and keep fighting like they do for us, then man, maybe one day. I think Donalds would be great as a president. Honestly, he's just a tough guy. We need someone like him who's just relentless, like Trump. But anyways, enough about that. Let's get into this. There's a bunch of video. This is probably going to be pretty long, but I wanted to make it shorter, but it's just so much stuff. They were grilling the shit out of him, so keep watching. Let's check it out.
Would you also agree that calling somebody racist is a serious accusation?
If they are racist, I think it's probably
I'm asking
accurate.
you, is that a serious accusation to make about somebody?
I think it's just an observation of reality.
All right, well, let's go there. Is it racist for a government official to identify fraud?
No.
No. Is it Islamophobic?
To identify fraud?
To identify fraud?
No, I don't believe it would be.
How come multiple whistleblowers have said that your administration told them not to say anything about widespread fraud across multiple agencies because doing so would be considered racist or Islamophobic?
I can't speak to it because it's not anything I would say.
Well, that's what your administration has said and has told whistleblowers, and as you just testified, the buck stops with you. It's what you stated in your statement whenever you announced you weren't running again. Are you familiar with Faye Bernstein?
Yes, I'm familiar with the name.
She's a Democrat, isn't she?
I wouldn't know that.
She stated publicly that she's a Democrat. She's only voted Democrat in her life. She's also stated publicly that she was retaliated against and called racist, and that her work responsibilities were diminished whenever she was highlighting fraud within your administration. Are you familiar with that?
I couldn't speak to
Why do you think she would?
allegations.
Why do you think she would say that?
Are you
I
familiar
can't
if someone calls you
speak for
racist?
what
You have
she
no
would think.
idea?
Yeah, you are.
I do not.
You would agree that the tone in your administration comes from you ultimately, right?
The tone is that.
The tone of how you might deal with whistleblowers.
Somebody
Right, we
needs to
protect
cut
them.
Walls'
Wait,
eyebrows.
it doesn't sound like you're protecting them. We
Snow
heard from
miser
Representative
eyebrows.
Kristen Robbins, quote, "We have dozens of credible whistleblower reports saying the exact same thing, that people were told not to say anything because they'd be called racist or Islamophobic or it would hurt the state." Do you think it's racist or Islamophobic to highlight and try to stop fraud?
It is not, and I certainly wouldn't
It's
know.
not, but that was the message your administration was sending to multiple whistleblowers.
I can't speak to that.
You can't speak to that. No, you don't want to speak to that, I think.
I have,
You don't
I have
wanna
over
speak to it.
40,000
Be
employees.
retaliated
Congressman.
against?
Pardon me?
Do you think whistleblowers should be retaliated against?
Absolutely not. They have strong protections in Minnesota and lots of paths. And
His
the paths
eyebrows,
are
That's
bro.
not what we're hearing
Look at
from
those
whistleblowers.
things.
Faye Bernstein, who again has
Looks like
stated
a
that she's a
caterpillar's on
Democrat,
there.
she's only ever voted Democrat, says
That
that, she
doesn't
was
matter whether
subjected
she's
to, quote,
Democrat
a
or Republican.
smear campaign for trying to make leadership aware of illegal contracting practices. Why do you think that happened?
I can't speak to that, Congressman, because we don't do it. and
You
it's-
just don't know anything?
I do know that we have strong whistleblower protections, and I can't speak.
That's
to
not what the whistleblowers are saying. According to another report, quote, "There's just a continuous effort to stifle you, to shut you up, and it's impossible to overcome." Your administration's response to whistleblowers has also been described as, quote, "nearly unbearable retaliation."
During the time period 2019 and 2020, while you were serving as governor, isn't it true that state auditors and officials raised concerns about fraud and vulnerabilities in programs overseen by your administration?
I can't confirm that, but I'm assuming we have always ongoing OLA.
I'll take that as a yes. Those warnings were communicated to senior officials in your administration, including yourself, correct?
I can't speak if it was directly.
I think the correct answer to that would also be yes. Despite those warnings, you did not order a broad stop
Answering for him
payment
'cause he's a
or
reject.
suspension of payment in any
Retard.
program at that time, correct?
We're not going to stop payments of
Look at
these
him, he
children
looks
until we
crazed,
have
bro.
the proof that things happened. In 2019, we did start taking action. I went to the legislature.
Okay.
That
He looks
led
like
to-
he
Governor
belongs in a
Watts, when
mental
fraud
hospital.
concerns were raised early in your tenure in the Child Care Assistance Program, did your administration stop payments at that time?
The Child Care Assistance Program and
The answer is no. When fraud concerns were
would you
raised,
like me to answer or not, Chairman?
well, it's yes or
I'm
no.
trying- I want you to help.
You've already answered the question. You said you didn't ever stop payments, and that's what the problem is, and that's what the Democrats are complaining about. Oh my gosh, Trump stopped payments. Well, my God, you lost billions to fraud in Minnesota. That's
Well,
what
that's-
this hearing's
Mr.
about.
Chairman,
you didn't stop payments because you didn't want to rock the boat. And when fraud concerns
That's not
were
correct,
raised,
Chairman.
when fraud concerns were raised in Medicaid, home and community-based services, did your administration stop payments? No, you did not. When fraud concerns were raised in non-emergency medical transportation, did your administration stop payments?
Chairman, if I could mention what a stop payment meant by what the administration did last week is 400,000 children without health care. Are you stopping payment if one person?
We believe that's your fault and the Attorney General's fault because you do nothing about fraud, even though everyone in America sees
Our Medicare
with their
error
own
rate is
eyes
lower than your
the
state's.
fraud. You have been defrauded. You have not been good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And the Democrat position is, well,
he
keep
doesn't
the
know
money
that.
flowing. The American taxpayers have had enough.
I think that's
They
a
have had
fair
enough. They
uncharacterization.
want their taxpayer dollars spent wisely. We all support social
That's
programs
not a fair
to the vulnerable.
characterization.
But if you're going to waste the money to fraudsters, then we have to stop and recalculate.
We're not.
Attorney General Ellison, you are the chief legal officer of the state
Got
of
him.
Minnesota, correct?
Yes.
Your office advises agencies on compliance with federal and state law, correct?
Yes.
Retaliation against whistleblowers reporting fraud is unlawful, correct?
That is right.
Ellison
At
is
any
such a
point
piece
during
of
your
shit.
tenure, did you tell state agencies to stop payments due to credible fraud allegations, yes or no?
Sir, we prosecuted over
at that
300
face. Did you
people
see
in
that?
the Medicaid fraud area.
300,
We
I
convicted
would-
them
predict as a drop in the bucket. But you've never said to stop payments. That's what.
It's one of the highest rates in the country, sir.
Well, you have one of the highest fraud rates in the country in Minnesota.
That's not true.
Yeah.
My office doesn't have
It's
the
not true.
authority to do a stop payment. We prosecute criminals
true.
when they're presented us by the agency.
So the answer is no. Unfortunately, no
I
one's
just seen
ever
him elevate in
from
his
your
chair
office
like, he must have
said
shit
to
his
stop
pants.
payments until we can get the fraud under control. So to summarize, you both knew about fraud, risk, and payments continued. Our investigation has shown that whistleblowers who were alerted about the widespread fraud were ignored, sidelined, and even retaliated against. Only after federal authorities ultimately stepped in did you take any action. It's not this committee's responsibility to decide guilt or dole out punishment. But it's clear there was a massive failure of oversight and, quite frankly, a failure of leadership.
Yeah, definitely. Man, I just love seeing it because it's crazy. Because if you see the Democrats go up there, they have nothing except crying. You know, it used to be January 6th. You know, now it's who knows what the flavor of the month is. I don't even know anymore. I don't keep up because it's all bullshit. Everything that Trump goes and supports is good. It's good for America. It's good for families. It's good for everything. They support the exact opposite of what he likes, which is what's good for America. And I can't believe that they still have a base. Like, how does this happen? You know? How do they still have a base? I have no idea. But anyways, let's go on. I saved the best for last because we got Donalds coming in, you know, Evander Holyfield. About to, like I said, he starts slow and then he just works it up from a boxer stance, you know. But I like him, man. I really like Donalds, and I like that he's from Florida, and he just learned from the best. You know what I'm talking about. But let's go on. This is going to be the end. I got probably about 4 minutes left, so hang in there with me. I'll have a little closing thing, and we'll end it, but I saved the best for last. Here you go. Byron Donalds, y'all.
Sworn testimony in the Oversight Committee that your former chief of staff was notified directly by these various commissioners about the fraud in Minnesota.
That could be correct.
So are you saying that your chief of staff didn't notify you?
I'm saying I don't recall whether he did at that time or not, but we took
Really,
action.
bro?
So I'm assuming when we put our budgets together
Billions are
based on
getting
that, we
taken,
put a
and you
package
don't know?
together for that legislative session.
Let's talk about budgets, Governor Walz. Feeding Our Future went from $307,000 in 2018 to $199 million in 2021. Are you aware of this increase in budgetary costs from Feeding Our Future?
Not specifically, but I know it increased during the pandemic.
The Housing Stabilization Services went from $27 million in 2021 to
Rapid fire,
$105
baby.
million in 2024. Are you aware of this increase, Governor Walz?
Not specifically, but I know it increased.
Autism centers went from $24 million in 2019 to $342 million in 2024. Are you aware of that?
Not specifically again, but yes, we know the budget's increased.
Integrated community supports went from $4.6 million in 2021 to $170 million in 2024. Are you aware of that?
Again, not specifically on the numbers, but it's the budget.
Governor Walz, you have to submit a budget to your legislature every single year, like every governor has to do. If you're not aware of these increases, what was your office
Everyone
doing?
is balanced. My budget is about $72 billion. It involves 23 agencies.
Florida's budget's
6 million people.
$115 billion, sir. But what were you doing if you're seeing program increases like this amid allegations of fraud in your state?
Action was being taken on these starting back in 2019. If it's CCAP.
Can you describe the action that was taken in 2019?
Sure. In the 2019, I'll go to the first things that we did on child care assistance. We lowered the standards on proof of administrative fraud disqualification.
Whoa, you
We
lowered the
increased
standards?
We lowered the standards for proof of administrative fraud. The standards where we had to prove it were so high it was impossible to try and do it. So we lowered
Yeah,
what it
because they
took
were all
to show
involved in the
was
fraud.
happening.
Everybody had
What
their
did you
hand
do
in
with the
cookie
results
jar.
of lowering the standards to prove fraud? What did you do?
Put 79 people in prison, and
79.
Well, Governor Walz,
Continue
the
to
fraud
prosecute.
continued to increase. It increased under your tenure. Do you acknowledge that?
did the numbers increase? Yes. And I tell you, when you
Yes.
catch people and prosecute them, it shows up with a
Yes.
fraud increase. I would tell you, Congressman, just because you're not hearing about fraud doesn't mean it's not happening.
We don't want it to be a fraud.
I don't want to
Now,
get into
let
a
me
fight
stop
with
it
you,
right
but
there. Let me
Peggy
stop
Flanagan-
it. I don't want to do that. It's going to show up as a fraud increase. It's going to go on my record. That's why I don't want fraud increase. He doesn't want a fraud increase. Why? Because it goes on his record. He just said it. That's why he didn't want that. They had to force him to do this shit. What a piece of shit. What a piece of shit. Goodbye, little Timmy. I love Byron Donalds, by the fucking way. Like, God. Do you want your kids to be like this retard pussy? Or do you want them to be like Byron Donalds? I want my kids to be like Byron Donalds.
And there are accusations that she was intimidating whistleblowers. There was a meeting on April 12th of 2024 where she went on stage and publicly denounced whistleblowers in the state of Minnesota, calling them losers in their mother's basements. Is this the type of treatment that your administration allows for whistleblowers in Minnesota?
I'm not familiar with that.
Are you aware of any intimidation
You're not
of whistleblowers
familiar
in the
with
state of
that?
Minnesota?
You know what the
There are
fuck's
30
going on.
whistleblowers who have given letters to this committee on the record saying that they have been subject to intimidation by your administration because they were trying to stop the fraud in Minnesota.
I encourage them to go to the OLA and the independent sources in Minnesota.
Look
that
at him.
are-
He's like a
OLA,
scared
you're
little
the
kid.
governor.
No, the OLA is the
And
independent.
Byron
Sir,
Donalds
you're
is
the
his
governor.
daddy.
Why don't you
Like,
take
you little bitch,
responsibility
you
for
better
what's
do
going
what
on
the
in
hell
your
you're
state?
I
told.
do take responsibility. None of those people, I'm
Byron
telling you, I
Donalds
don't
is
know.
his
You lost
daddy.
billions of dollars
Look at that.
of American
He's
taxpayer
scared to
money in the
death.
process, Governor Walz.
He's scared to
We,
death of Byron.
we prosecuted these people, Congressman. I think Florida has fraud.
I would argue that the prosecutions have largely come from the
Florida
federal
fraud?
offices.
That's
as
not
opposed
as
to the
much as
state
you.
offices.
You know that we refer
What
them
do you
to-
mean that's not how it works? That's
They're
exactly
partners.
how it works.
They're
You think that
partners.
guy's letting
They
fraud
partner
come
together at
across
BCA.
his
Is the
doorstep
Attorney
like you
General
are, you
allowed
piece
to
of
investigate
shit?
fraud and prosecute fraud in the state of Minnesota
God.
without the Department of Justice federally? Are you allowed to do that, Attorney General Ellison?
Yes, and we do prosecute Medicaid. Yes, and we do prosecute Medicaid fraud all the time. We've prosecuted over
All the time.
300 people.
Apparently,
myself right
apparently
now,
not
but all the
enough
time.
because Minnesota's rife with it. I yield back.
All right, guys. What can you do, man? Like, it's always about deflection. Like, you think, like, honestly, DeSantis and Donalds are letting this kind of fraud happen in fucking Florida? No, they're not. Okay? They know more about your fucking state than you do. Every question that they asked him, he had no response. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Like, dude, like, these guys are, they're beating you to death. Like, they're literally, you haven't thrown one punch, bro. You're just deflecting. Florida has fraud. Like, dude, admit that you're wrong. You're already on your way out. You're never going to have another position in the government. I know he's probably got some Somali bank account over there in some small Somali town with billions of dollars in there, because why else would he be letting his fraud go past like that and not be recognized and investigated? But we already heard what he said. We just got the answers. It's like the answers are hidden. Byron was coming at him so hard he didn't realize what Tim Walz said. And that says, he's like, well, if there's more fraud, then it shows the more fraud. Oh, and it brings up my percentages. Guess what? That's why he doesn't want the percentages to go up. Because if you go and discover the fraud, his percentages go up. He just said that. He don't want that. Really? Instead of fixing the problem, he just lets it go and get bigger and bigger. You seen how big those swell? That feeding the future and that everything that they touch, the daycares, all this stuff is fraud, and he let it happen. And all he could do is deflect. He had no answers. He didn't say, yeah, you're right, I did that, that's why I resigned. No. They made him resign because he was weak. He was a weak link. They said, dude, you are not going to be able to survive against guys like Gill, Jordan, and Donalds in a debate or anything. They're going to eviscerate you and make you look like a little kid. They're going to be your daddy. You know what I'm saying? And that's why he's gone. He's gone. He ain't going to ever have anything in the government again. Probably open up a used car lot or something. Who knows? But anyways, I'm sorry. I was kind of pissed about that because it's just the deflection all the time. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of the deflection. You know what I mean? It's not even funny. I usually try to keep shit funny, but I can't really laugh about this because it's just like, once he leaves, the fraud's still going to continue. It's not going to change.